Welcome to the Sobriety Diaries, friends. My name is Nate. I am a grateful recovering alcoholic 6 years from my last drink. My sobriety is such a huge part of who I am. I decided that I needed to help others find their voice and share their journey too. The Sobriety Diaries is a video podcast where we share powerful stories of recovery told by those who live them. Head on over to the sobrietydiaries.com where you can join our insiders list for exclusive content, early release episodes, and more. Also, please share this podcast with just one person in your life who may still be struggling. You just never know what they may need to hear today. Recovery is possible. Happy Sober Day, friends. Thank you so much for downloading today's episode and for the continued support. I really, truly appreciate it. Welcome to part 2 of our season 2 premiere. Hopefully you listened to part 1, which was sort of a look back and a where are they now with some of our favorite guests from season 1. In this episode, we are chatting with two of my favorite ladies who I have met on this crazy online sobriety journey, and I wanted to share our conversation with you today. One of them you probably know from 2 episodes in season 1, and as my co-host of the other podcast that I do, The Influence, a social media podcast, Abbie Jean. She is also in recovery and just celebrated 3 years clean and sober. And the other is a TikTok powerhouse who shares her spirituality and her soul coaching with clients and with her TikTok community of nearly 1 million followers. So we have an amazing chat about religion versus spirituality, and as it relates to recovery, we talk about forgiveness and how it can be such a motivator of living a better life and this path that we are on of sobriety. So I truly loved the time that we spent together, and hopefully we will chat again soon. Let's open the diary on my chat with Missy and Abbie Jean. Hi,
Woo!
friend. I'll say,
Hi,
friends. Yes, there it
Hi.
is.
Hi, friends. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thank you for making time. We were kind of discussing before, focusing a little differently this season on the Sobriety Diaries, and I really like these roundtable discussions and having different viewpoints involved in. We recorded an episode of the other podcast, and we had such a good time that we ended up here today. So thanks again for making time.
Thank you.
Missy is a jack of all trades, master of many,
Yes.
right? She
She is.
she is.
Thank you.
Abbie Jean and I sort of got just really sucked in right as we were launching the other podcast and deciding who we wanted to have on the show. And both being in recovery, we're really drawn to your message. Abbie Jean, do you want to touch a little bit about kind of just how we really related to her message, and in particular got sucked in one night on a live? But the rest is kind of history.
We did. We initially got sucked into one of the lives where you're doing one of the readings, and we were up late messaging in bed like, are you there? I'm here. And but something I really just was drawn to about your content is spirituality and the way that you present spirituality to your audience. I think you do it beautifully and seamlessly. As someone in recovery, spirituality was extremely important to me in the beginning when you're kind of flapping around and you really don't know what you're doing. So I just think that for your audience, the way you present it is really appealing to us in the sober community. So thank you for that.
Yes.
Thank you.
We'll get into this a little more, but you are not in recovery. But as Abbie Jean says, the messages that you sort of portray and give to your audience regularly really is sort of adaptable to the recovery community, and a lot of your followers are in recovery or struggling with sobriety, and I think that that's what makes this little trio so perfect today. So kind of piggybacking off of what Abbie Jean says, I was not as accepting or ready to dive into the spirituality piece of my recovery early on, just because it sort of scared me. And I didn't grow up in a religious home, and I didn't really understand what the difference between religion, what we picture like a structured religion, versus spirituality, and finding that within. So can we start with maybe you touching on the differences in religion versus spirituality?
The way I have to make it make sense for me is religion is man-made. That is a man-made construct. It's a structure by which we worship. For example, you can have, we might say the three of us might be Christian, but you might be Southern Baptist, and I might be, Roman Catholic, and Abbie could be Pentecostal. We're going to worship completely different. We, for the most part, are going to believe in the same fundamentals for the most part, but we will practice and worship differently. We will have different rituals. And what's really interesting within the Christian community is how much there can be intolerance of how one worships versus another, which is just
Crazy.
hypocrisy at its finest, because we're literally calling ourselves Christians after Jesus Christ, who literally was like, all right, y'all, look, before I go, just do this one thing. Just love each other. Just love yourself like you've loved your neighbor.
Yes.
That's all. I'm just before I leave, I just want to leave that with you. And then here we are doing literally the exact opposite. It's hypocrisy at its finest. Spirituality, I think, is when you come to the understanding that you are not a human, but you are a soul having a temporary human experience. And that when you connect with that infinite part of you that will live beyond this, and when you realize that you're the observer of your thoughts, that you are not your thoughts, you are not that negative self-talk, when you realize that you are something outside of that, that's huge. And I think and I do like to use the terminology higher power, because I'm all inclusive.
Yeah.
Whether it's gender, sexuality, religion, culture, I'm all inclusive. So when I say just that thing outside of yourself, whatever that is, develop a relationship with that. And so that's why I like to use the word higher power from time to time, because I'm like, I want to be sure that whoever hears it knows that I'm talking about whatever it is that you believe in, whatever you think you came from, and that you're going to return back to that thing. That's what, So yeah, that to me is the difference between the contrast on the most basic level.
Yeah.
On the most basic level. Yeah.
For me, that's one of the things that 12-step rooms does really well, because I don't think that my thoughts or my hesitancy to dive into that side of the program is out of the ordinary. So I think they do a really good job of making sure that we understand that it is, your higher power is that of your understanding. And it can be a group of people, it can be Mother Earth, whatever you need to start out as it being, to, really accept that there is a being greater than our humanly selves, then, be that as it may. And I think we do a good job of that in the rooms.
I think what's so interesting about, because I think with coming into recovery, and when you're first introduced to 12 steps, when you're first coming into that, I think so many people are angry at God. And they're angry at, they've had religious trauma, or worse, they've been abused within the church. I mean, my God, so you're coming, people don't become addicts because everything was, fantastic and roses. And there's usually something prior to, there's usually something, maybe not always, at least, because we do know there is genetic and familial, predisposition, but usually somebody had a bad day.
Yeah. At least, at minimum.
There was a situation where you were like, well, I don't want to think about this anymore. And so often it can be traced back to something where, well, God didn't save me from this, and God could have protected me from this, or it was, again, something religious affiliated. So I think I can imagine coming into that, and the first thing is like, okay, the first thing you got to do is accept that. You're like, oh no, hell no, that's how I got here. Like,
Right.
no, if there was a God, so I get it. I get it. And in my classes that I teach, a lot of people are so angry, and they think they're angry at their parent. They think they're angry at so and so. But a lot of times, if I can get them to really contact trace, they're angry at God. And but they're scared to say that. They think it's blasphemous. They think, and I'm like, God, the one with the burning bush, God, the one with
Right.
the flooding the earth. Your anger is like you're creating the image of God. Welcome to your rage. Like, here's your package. Like,
Yeah.
so it's like once people admit, no, I am angry at God. Oh my God, then the work starts. Then the work can start. First, you got to get real honest about who you're mad at. And God can take it. God, by the way, whatever that is for you. And I believe we're all calling it the same thing. You can call me Missy. You can call me Nurse. You can call me Melissa. You can
Right.
call me Bestie. We're all talking about me. So I feel like the same thing with God. So whatever we call that, I'll say God and Jesus just out of, habit. But yeah, just realizing that, you know what? Yeah, where was God? Where was God? And start asking the questions, and so that you can get answers. And I think that's the best way is to start asking the questions. So I can see where that can be difficult for people to
Yeah.
start out with admitting that there's something outside of yourself. But boy, is it freeing when you have that,
Oh,
when you figure out that connection for
Yeah.
yourself. Man, oh yeah,
That freeing feeling. That's a feeling I will never forget.
yeah,
Was the first time that I accepted what was going on, and then accepted that I was going to change. And I remember the first time they talked about the higher power, and they laid it out on the table like that. Your higher power is who or whatever you would like it to be.
yeah,
And I kind of immediately grasped onto an idea that it was, you know, a person or a feeling or a thing that wasn't me. And that was freeing, because I was like,
mm,
oh, now we can start to heal Abbie Jean.
mm,
yeah.
Because I really hated her so much. And
mm.
it was such a freeing feeling to think that, there was another presence or being that was going to help me fix me.
And to not
And that,
like have to make the decisions or feel like we were
yes,
creating the
yes,
path, but to follow or go along on this path that was created for us, I
yes.
think is a huge leap of faith. And,
Mm-hmm.
we were like clinging on to the steering wheel for so long and going down all of these roads that weren't made for us, and crashing the car along the way. To give up
Mm-hmm.
that power is scary, but so freeing, to your point, Abbie Jean.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that letting go, that surrender.
Yeah.
People think surrender is a giving up. It's like, no, a surrender is saying, yes, okay, now I'm ready. Now I'm ready to surrender to, because when we try so hard to hold on so tightly to things, there's no room for God to work
Right.
when you're trying to control and do everything. And the idea of control is so, it's not even a real thing. We can control very little. So yeah, when you finally surrender, it's very liberating to say, okay, yes, now God can, now there's room for God. Now there's room for spirit, whatever you want to call that, to come in, work and help me. And I don't have to, because I think we have that, sometimes we feel so alone. We just have this loneliness. I forget who said it. We have a God sized hole in our heart that only God
Yes.
can fill, but we try to fill it with relationships and food and shopping and promiscuity and drugs and alcohol and cats and dogs. Like, but it's like once we just surrender to the fact that nothing's going to fill that except your connection to that mystery, you always feel like you had that thing that's lacking.
And we try to take back little control here and there, and that leaves less and less room for that,
Yeah.
for God, right? So I have to remind myself, and or You know, working the 12 steps is I'll probably continue to work them for the rest of my life. You know, I think for me, being an alcoholic is something that will exist for the rest of my life. So I sometimes have to remind myself and give up that control and surrender. And, that's just something that I'm okay with now.
May I interject?
Yeah.
When you're talking about that, because again, you're right. I'm not in recovery. I've been all around it though with, ex-husbands. Now I am a recovering codependent.
Yeah.
Oh, hello. Yes.
Me.
Oh, blessed Jesus, deliver me. Yes. So when you talk about, so I'm saying not only the nursing perspective, but real life, like grandparents who died of alcoholism, alcohol related, illness, two ex-spouses that were, one ended up perishing, from drug related causes. So I've been all around it and looking at it from all different perspectives. And when you say, each day I have to wake up, each day I wake up and have to surrender and realize, okay, this is something, and it's no different to me what I see it when you say that like no different than a diabetic. A diabetic, if they get up and say, you know what, I don't feel like taking insulin anymore. Right. Okay. Yeah. Let's see how that works for you. Yeah. Diabetics, especially ones that are on shots 4 times a day, they're having to check their sugar 8 times a day. They hate it. They feel like they're a slave to their diabetes. But once they are in a relationship with it and realize, okay, this is what I need to do to be well, and you realize you're in relationship with it, that it's not apart from you, because part of shame and guilt, part of we cut off these aspects of ourselves and we deny, I'm just gonna not, act like, we call this the shadow work in spirituality, where we just deny and suppress and kick it to the corner and put it in the corner. We're like, we don't talk about that. But when we bring it out into the light, that shadow part of ourselves, we're like, no, I am an addict. No, I am an overeater. No, I am this. And because so much of our shame and guilt lies in shunning these aspects of ourselves. So when we bring it back home and love it and go, you know what, you are this, but I love you anyway. It's just part of it, but you don't define me. When you look at a person, their diabetes doesn't define them. You don't look at them and go, oh God, that's a diabetic.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh,
we
look,
don't.
another diabetic.
Yeah.
Oh, great. Yeah. Just like your mother.
Yeah.
No,
right.
Like there's no shaming in the diabetic. So I think, again, I help people and help families in the past, them see it as, if this person had diabetes or cancer or this, other diagnosis, you wouldn't treat them this way. So that makes sense for me. People usually don't have anything to say.
Yeah.
They're like,
yeah.
I love that you said in relationship with it. I don't think I've ever heard of it referred to like that, but it makes so much sense.
In relationship with, we use, and that's probably something from the spiritual community. We talk about being in right relationship with, say, nature, being in right relationship with the elements, being in right relationship with people, obviously, but making sure we're in right relationship with food. Knowing that the food is to nourish my body, not to make me feel worthy.
Can be tough sometimes.
So being in right relationship, like if I'm friends with Abbie, I say, and I'm expecting Abbie to pay my bills and I'm expecting Abbie to feel my self-worth, she's going to be like, I can't do that. And it's going to kill her if she tries. Like, so being in right relationship, knowing that I have realistic expectations from you, so that we can have an equal partnership. So if I know that I have this part of me, my hypothyroidism, my alcoholism, whatever that is, and going, okay, you're a part of me. I'm not going to shun you. We've been shunned enough. We've been shamed enough. I see you. Let's be in right relationship. Now I'm going to keep you in your place. You're going to stay here. I'm going to manage you, and we're going to do everything we can to be well. It's just about wellness, being well, and whatever that looks like, whether it's mind, body, or spirit, mentally, spiritually, emotionally. And I became a soul coach because, I still do nursing, but the most rewarding aspect of everything I do is the soul coaching, because I really do believe that most everything has its source in spirit, and that we do things like overeat and we're promiscuous. We do all these things because there's an affliction in the spirit that we're trying to heal and fix. So we're just trying to get that wellness in the spirit.
So true for me.
So true. Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking because whenever I talk about sobriety, especially on the internet, I always start my video off with, "My name is Abbie Jean and I'm an alcoholic." And every time I say it, there's always people who are like, "Why do you still call yourself an alcoholic?" And why?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And for me, it's because the very first time I ever said that was December 6th of 2018, which is now a day that I hold very dear to my heart. It's my sobriety date. And it's because that day was when the work started.
Yes.
The Abbie Jean, I'm an alcoholic, is the best version of myself, more than I could ever dream of myself that I am. Before that, Abbie Jean was active addiction Abbie Jean, and prior to that, I was a child. So the Abbie
Truth.
Jean, I'm an alcoholic, is been the best version I have ever been of me. And so I say it very proudly. I am Abbie Jean and I am an alcoholic.
Yeah.
And the relationship that I have with that whole term is so healthy that I feel, I feel very proud to say that, because the sober community, is a tough one to be a part of, but it's an incredible
Yeah.
one. Some of
Yeah.
the most wonderfully strong, amazing people are in this community. So I like that. It's the relationship.
Yeah.
I see that I watch all the videos and I follow other people in recovery and stuff. And I read and I look, because I'll go to comment and I'll look at the comments and I'll be like, and it's no different than Christians beating up other Christians.
Right.
Yes.
And the most recent thing I saw, and of course I'm not in recovery, so I feel like I don't have the right to comment.
I love this.
Because I don't need them coming after me. Like that's the last thing I need is the recovery.
Yes.
I don't need that community come. Like
Pick your battles.
Pick your battles.
I have maintained my but what I noticed in the comments was people shaming each other. And this is what I love. Humans are God. We're not well. We're not in right relationship.
We are not well.
We are not okay. They were shaming somebody for using something to help them not drink.
Yes. Yes.
And listen, I'm like, again, as a nurse, that's like shaming someone who has cancer for taking chemo and not trying to just,
crazy.
heal themselves with carrots. I'm just like, they're shitting me.
Yeah.
I'm just like,
I know.
I don't, because they would have come for me and I would have been like, oh, I'm just a nurse, I'm not in recovery. And then it would have been a whole nother fight. But I'm just like, y'all got to be shitting me.
Yeah.
Like, this isn't, but again, it's no different than Christianity. Whatever community you're in, unfortunately, until we get it right, until we get in right relationship with ourselves. But come on, that's really within ourselves. We feel like, oh, well, they're, they got it the easy way. There's always going to be that. And it's always a reflection of something back within yourself. And it's always a projection, but people aren't probably really ready to see that. Abbie, I want to say something to what you were saying. When you claim that, when you say I'm Abbie Jean and I'm an alcoholic, I don't know if y'all, when you were little, if maybe a parent or whoever raised you ever made you feel like you were bad, you had to go sit in the corner or you had to go to your room, you had to go away.
Yeah.
Right? You had to go away. You're bad, go in the corner, go in timeout, go in your room, but you're bad, so you must go.
Right.
So we do that with aspects of ourselves. This is bad, so you must go. So Abbie, every day, every time you say that and you reclaim that, you're saying, you're not bad. You're a part of me and you're here and I'm going to take care of you. And I fucking love that so much.
Yes.
It's like a power stance. It's like, no, you're not going to go sit in timeout. You're not going to go. You're going to sit right here with me, proudly display and say, this is a part of me, but it doesn't have to define you. The diabetic, that doesn't have to define them. You're not you're the sum of all of your parts. You're the sum of all of your things. So I just wanted to mention that when you said that.
I love that.
Yes. Yeah. Bringing it back in the living room, saying you're not going to go in your room. You're going to sit here with me because you're a part of me and I won't be ashamed of you.
It's the reclaiming.
Mm.
I
Yes.
was told
Yes.
for years, you're an alcoholic. You're an alcoholic. You need to do something. This is so bad. You're an alcoholic.
Mm.
And finally, that my day, December 6th, I said, I am an alcoholic. And now watch this.
Watch this.
Oh, I love
Watch
it.
this.
God, it feels good. It's like,
Yeah.
It's
yes.
funny now. I find myself like I have to catch myself to not say it in like a setting, like a work Zoom meeting. They're like, introduce yourself, and I'm like,
Hi.
it just like rolls off the tongue,
Yes,
and I have
it
to.
does.
I love it.
I have to
love
stop
it.
myself sometimes.
I love
I
that.
know.
I
Yeah.
love it. I think that's great. But
Yeah.
I mean,
Tell
again,
us-
it's easy for me to say that on this side of things. I very much know my place in that thing. But man, I've always admired people in recovery. Gosh dang, man. You know, the diabetic can go to the store and buy a cupcake, and people are going to be like, oh, that's fine. You should treat yourself.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But man, addicts, y'all, God, it's just, oh, the shame that
Not
comes. It's
even
just like,
one. Yeah.
God, have mercy, Lord. It's just, and to have such access to things, the willpower it takes. People just, I don't know. People don't,
And
I just don't think they realize.
the normalcy now that we have created around alcohol
Oh.
use is
Ah.
absolutely
It's shocking.
Not only is it
Shocking.
normal, but this is my favorite. God, this is my favorite. Because I don't drink much because of the way my body is set up. I will get a rash and I will
Yeah.
get sleepy.
Yeah.
So I'm just not a lot of fun in that way that I turn like purple and rashy. Nobody wants to talk to the rashy girl. So I don't drink much just because of that, because I have to be really careful because I'm allergic to, I don't know, hops, barley, something, God knows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is what people say, oh, you want to drink? No, I'm not drinking. Oh, well, why?
Why?
Yes. Yes.
Are you
Yeah.
talking to me? Because I'm a grown ass woman. You don't ask me
Right.
why I'm not doing something. Why are you
Yeah.
drinking?
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, and then there'll be the same ones that be like, oh, you're drinking Coke. You know that's poison. I beg your
I
pardon.
know.
Right.
I
The
know.
hypocrisy,
Yes.
because we got it. You know, my thing is better than your thing, and you should be ashamed. And
Right.
you know, it's always projection. And Lord, it's
It's crazy. Crazy.
it is literally crazy. You're right. It is crazy. I mean, of course, and then there are going to be people that say you can drink and not get drunk. We know,
Right.
Patricia.
We,
We know, honey.
Patty.
I know.
We know. We're not talking about having a cocktail for, you know, New Year's. We're talking about people that have to drink. If you have
to function.
it's a problem. If you have to have something to do anything, you need to do some self-reflection. Like, I don't even care what it is. Like all other addictions, you know, shopping addiction. Oh, look how many shoes I have. I'm an addict.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
What vacant hole is that filling for you,
Mhm.
Patricia? Do you want to talk about that? No, I didn't think so.
I didn't think
Like-
so. Right.
Like, you know, we don't want to talk. Oh, your 500 purses. No, you don't want
touch
to
on
talk
that?
about what that. Yeah. Do you want to talk about that? How's that make you feel? Because it's no different. You know, it's that serotonin, it's the dopamine.
Yes.
I buy a purse, I feel better. I eat a cupcake, I feel better. I have a drink to oblivion, I feel better. I do shoot heroin until I can't think anymore, I feel better. Like, we're all doing something to feel better. It forces people to face their bullshit.
Yeah.
And it's
Yes.
so much
100%.
easier while I'm pointing the finger than I'm not having to deal with my bullshit. And people are just, and they're not ready. They're not ready to face this shit.
Yeah. That's the
And
truth.
Yeah. And I remember I'm still in early sobriety. I don't know what early sobriety is, but
Yeah, I don't know. I think you've
I don't-
graduated to like
yeah. Like,
regular.
I'm a teenager.
Yeah.
No, I'm like a middle schooler. But I remember like in early, I literally physically felt like I was naked, covered in paper cuts, standing in public.
Yes.
And I remember having this feeling of like, you have got to be kidding me. Now I'm alone, naked, in public, covered in paper cuts. I'm unbelievably uncomfortable and my emotions are everywhere.
Yeah.
How am I supposed to rein this in? And then everyone was like, how does it feel to feel all the feels? And I was like, oh my God, I feel everything. And they were
Yeah,
like,
that's
yeah,
awful.
yeah, fuck this and make
Yeah.
it stop. And they said, now we sort it all out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, can I have some Band-Aids in the meantime?
Right.
You know?
So much of what I do is literally just processing emotion from, you know, because usually we're acting out of something today and we think we're triggered because, well, you said something that really pissed me off. Okay, yeah, but really, what were you really feeling? Well, I was feeling disrespected. Oh, okay. Tell me about the first time you remember feeling disrespected. Well, I was 4. Oh, okay. Let's talk about that. Let's process that emotion from when you were 4, because that's what you're holding on to.
Yeah.
And we were not taught to process emotions. Most of us, a lot of us were raised by people that didn't have the time, even if they wanted to, or they weren't capable of just even helping us and go, okay, well, let's feel it and let's do, you know, emotions, motion. Emotion is motion. It's just energetic. They're meant to come and go. There's meant to be motion. But when we resist, no, this isn't happening. No, this isn't happening. I'm not feeling this. I'm not feeling. Then it gets stagnant energetically. We hold on to that. And guess what, folks? You don't go anywhere. It accumulates until you meet someone or you do some kind of work where you start processing emotions. And hopefully you have that person is able to help you know how to feel the feels so that you don't create more stagnation and more resistance. But that's where surrender comes in. When we surrender, it's allowing everything to just move instead of, you know, trying tightly to hold on to control. And just literally, it's a opening
up.
Yeah, it's an opening. Yeah.
I think that's a good segue because I wanted to talk a little bit about forgiveness and Abbie Jean, I guess, as a 12-stepper as well. How was making amends with people and sort of releasing that burden that we carried around for so long?
It was definitely a roller coaster of emotions. I'll never forget when I figured out that that was part of it, and I was like, "Oh, okay, all right. Not sure
maybe
about that.
Yeah,
maybe not." So both of my brothers and my father are in recovery. So I started with them because I knew they knew it was coming.
Easy. Yeah.
And that was okay. It was good. But the one that hit me the hardest was one of my very best friends, whose wedding I was extremely intoxicated at. And the reaction wasn't what I expected. The thing I actually struggled with the most was not the making amends with other people, but making amends with myself. I went through about a year and a half of just torture. I could not forgive myself for a few things that I had done or said. And it took me really digging deep and figuring out how to forgive myself, which is honestly something I still struggle with.
Yeah.
But you know, there's different literature and what have you in the program that helped me realize that you are not the same person. It is, of course, me, and I did make those choices, but it was the getting over the hump of really forgiving myself that was groundbreaking for me, and made every day a little bit more comfy. But as far as making amends, it felt good, honestly, to say out loud to those people, this is what I did, and I am incredibly sorry.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to do that. I did. I wanted to kind of air it all out. So that was freeing for me, but the forgiving of myself was extremely difficult.
Like I had it all laid out in my head. This is how it's going to go. This is what they're going to say. They're going to be like, oh, you know, open arms and no worries. And honestly, like that's not the reality of the situation. So fairly quickly, early on, I realized that and sort of had to like reset my expectations, talk to my sponsor, make sure I was going into these conversations not to feed my own ego or ease my own discomfort. This was about them and making sure that like they felt okay with, you know, this new outlook on life I had and me sort of starting on this new journey. So that was I think, a big dose of reality early on for sure.
In spirituality, we learn to not have attachment to outcomes. Attachment is really the source of most of our problems.
Yeah.
We attach to this thing, oh, alcohol's going to, solve everything. I won't feel the feels. But meanwhile, you're not feeling the feels, but everybody else is, and there's other problems being created.
Right.
When I do this, I expect that expectation. So having healthy expectations, but again, I do, I have my own this, that, whatever, but I'm not attached to the outcome. I'm doing it because that's part of my soul's purpose, is to be here and do this. And you know what? If it resonates with people, great. And if it doesn't, I'm not going to attach to the outcomes. But again, we're such a outcome-driven society.
Yeah.
I worked 8 hours, so I've got to have $500.
Yeah.
I did this so that
Yeah.
I have this. I did this so that I have that. I did this, instead of just saying, I did this because it's my soul's purpose.
I love that.
Yeah.
And I'm not attached to the outcome, whether it resonates. I might make a video that gets 500 views. I might make a video that gets 500,000.
Yeah.
I made the video because it was on my heart, and I don't attach to the outcome. So I think that, attachment is something that, oh God, it's just like so ingrained in us, the outcomes, because you have to have something to prove your worth and prove your value. And, you did this. So if you apologize and you didn't get the outcome you wanted, does that mean your apology was shitty? Does that mean you're shitty? It means nothing. It's all on this person and it has nothing to do with you. I actually teach a class about forgiveness and, helping people understand that hanging on to anger and resentment and trying to change the past doesn't get you anywhere. And it's that surrender, going, what happened, happened. No amount of worry or stress is going to change that. All I can do is move forward from today. I'm telling you I'm a different person, but you know what? I can show you better than I can tell you. Just watch. Just watch. Yeah. Because people hold on. If I say, I really need you to forgive me, people are not going to offer their forgiveness for so many reasons. They're still angry. They're still hurt, and they need to heal that within themselves. But, really making sure that we are forgiving ourselves for doing the best we could at the time with what we had, and again, I can think so many of us are primarily angry with ourselves and also angry at God, and just going, you know what? Why am I angry at God? Was I promised some frilly life that there would be no problems? And no. So like, where did you make that up? Like, how can you be mad at God when he wasn't like, all right, I'm going to put you on earth and nothing bad ever is going to happen. Deal. He didn't like, go back on his promise. Like, nobody ever said there wouldn't be. So just realizing, oh God, what am I angry at? What am I mad about? Who am I mad at? I was like, oh shit, I'm mad at myself. And then realizing, you know what, I did the best I could at the time with what I had. Could I have done anything better? Did you know any better at the time? Did you have any better tool? Did you have any better anything? And especially this is big with my clients who are moms, especially when they were young moms starting out, and they look at everything they did wrong and everything. And I'm like, oh, you're right. You really fucked up. Did you know better?
Right.
No. Could you have done better? No. Well, why'd you do it? I was just trying to feed us.
We do the best we can, right? With what we have.
Can you literally look at 10 years ago, Abbie, and really look at her and be like, you really fucked up. You wouldn't beat up on her. You would pull her into your arms and just love her and rock her and hold her. And if we can look back on our past selves and with that same compassion and grace, oh my God. Oh.
Yeah. It's funny. Yeah. One of Nate's other episodes, I'm sure you remember this, Nate, where the guy asked you to speak to little Nate.
Oh.
Wow.
Yeah.
And it was like super emotional. So I'm like listening to Nate talk to little Nate, and I was at work at the time. And so like the episode ended, I quickly sent him a message, and I was like, oh my gosh, such an amazing thing. Yeah. And then in that moment, I was like, what would I say to little Abbie Jean? And I remember I was in the work bathroom getting ready, and I looked in the mirror, and all I said was, it's gonna be okay.
Yeah.
It's gonna be okay. And it was I was, sobbing and crying, but I love that idea though. Like, if you really look at younger me She wasn't like, I'm going to go and totally fuck up my 20s.
Right.
Right.
You know, it was like
Right.
she was just
You're just trying to
doing,
make it.
she
Yes.
was hanging on by the skin of her
Just trying to
teeth.
make it.
But that is what makes, you know, me 3 years out being able to look back. That's what makes it so good, is like, don't worry, I got you, and it's going to be okay.
Yeah. And whatever happens today, you know, and be like, oh God, I really fucked up. Okay, well, all right, how can I move forward from that? And taking
Yeah.
that and applying it to every day and going, you know what? I'm not going to crucify myself for that. I'm going to do what I can to fix it. And then beyond that, what else can I do? And
Yeah.
give yourself grace. But, you know, we can't extend much grace if we're not giving ourselves grace. And, you know, you can only meet others as far as you've met yourself. Because if you haven't forgiven yourself, you're not going to forgive me. Now, we know these people are like, oh my God, I'm never going to forgive you. And it's like, you can, again, it's always a reflection back inward. You know, that's how little they, you know, are tolerant of themselves, how little they are loving and accepting of themselves. It's usually a direct, you know, reflection of their self-loathing or self-hatred, or
Right.
at least lack of self-love. But love is unconditional. If it's not unconditional, then it's not love.
Missy, tell our listeners where they can find you if they want to work together on their spiritual journey or any of your other teachings.
So my website is www.nursemissy.com, and there's a services tab where you can schedule a one-on-one coaching session. But if you scroll down, you'll also see where you can sign up for the free Zoom classes. My next class that I'm teaching on, for example, is authenticity.
Ooh.
So many people ask me, they say, well, how do I even know my authentic self? How do I even get there? I get that question a lot.
Yeah.
So this is a class about rediscovering your truth, who you are underneath all the bullshit, and how to live authentically each day. So that's my next class coming up. I also have a podcast, which is Empowered Connections on Apple, Spotify, and Anchor. But all of my links are there on the website. I'm on TikTok as that Nurse Missy,
Yes,
and
she is.
Instagram as that Nurse Missy. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank
We love you.
Oh, I love y'all too.
Abbie Jean, do you want to leave perhaps our listeners who are still struggling in their addiction with a little bit of hope today?
If you are having trouble staying sober, don't look at it as a defeat. Don't take a relapse or what have you as a defeat. Just keep moving forward and keep trying and keep learning, because I believe in you and I believe that you can have a beautiful life.
Beautiful. I believe in you too.
Me 3.
Thanks so much for listening today, friends. Hopefully you heard something that resonates with you. And if we help just one person, our job is done. Make sure you check out today's show notes for all of the information on today's episode and how to connect with our guest. You can find all things podcast related and subscribe to our show at thesobrietydiaries.com, youtube.com/Nate Kelly, where we upload today's video podcast, and on Instagram at the Sobriety Diaries Pod. Check back every Wednesday for new episodes with new stories to tell. But until then, try your best not to drink and be good to yourself. Bye, friends.